Hello everyone, today I'm here to show you Pathways. Now this is a brand new, or not even brand new, this is a prototype dexterity game that is going on Kickstarter. It's going to be live on March 15th, which is probably when this video goes live. Now let's take a look roughly how this plays. You'll get to see the components that are right here in front of me as well, and then we'll come back and talk about what I thought of it. So this is partway through a game. Basically, though, on a turn, you're going to be using one of these discs. One side doesn't have the W on, one does. Doesn't really matter which side. You're going to line it up anywhere behind your line, and you're going to try and flick it. Your finger must have left the puck, or the piece, for want of a better word, before it's crossed the line. If it crosses the line at least halfway, then it will stay on the board. If it ends in your zone or your opponent's end zone, more than that though, then it will basically be removed from play. So let's try and get a shot. As you can see, we have a bit of a pathway across the board here. That doesn't mean that we will get this in, but we will give it a go. Absolute fail there, but let's pretend that we didn't. And see if we can get one in. Oh, that was close. There we go. So the way this would work is, because I've managed to get it into my opponent's area, that's effectively a goal. They would obviously be aiming for this line here. If you do flick one and it ends in your own area, then using the handy little thing, you just remove it from there. You're not able to actually block basically your own area. This is the goal that your opponent is trying to score in. Any that are left on the board like such, well, they stay there. They can be knocked on future turns. The only thing is, if a piece does end up like such, then it is laid down because it has managed to drop into the hole. Now, the simplest way to play Pathways is effectively just keep flicking back and forth one at a time and trying to gain as many goals as possible. At the end, when everyone's flicked their discs, then you'll see how many in the back 7 of your opponent's row you've scored. In this case, this would be 1-1, so there's a draw. Well, why not play another round? There is also a way that links multiple games together. The way this works is you would effectively clean the board up, slide all the pieces over, pass all the tokens back to their respective player, and then start a new game. If you win the game, you gain 2 points. If there's a draw, you would both get 1 point if players had managed to score at least 1 goal each. If neither player scored a goal, then you'd get 0 points for that one. And it's first to in the rulebook, 11, and there's this handy little dial that you can keep track of the numbers on. But of course, if you wanted to keep going, you could keep going and score past that, or you could make it a smaller game by saying it is, say, first to 5 points instead. And that is how you play various modes on the bamboo board here. As you saw, there was a playmat below this. Now, that's not just for looking fancy. There are actually other game modes which utilize this. Now, these are different discs from the ones that we used on the board, but these are because it's prototype, and you can check the exact way it's going to work out on the Kickstarter. There are a few different games that utilize these. You'll be able to get different colors, so you can do more than 2 versus 2. There will also be, so you can play 3 or 4 player. Now, they revolve around maybe using a neutral colored disc and make it whoever can manage to flick in closest from behind the line. That's not too bad. If this ever leaves play on this mode, that person that knocked it out would instantly lose. Otherwise, it's whoever is closest at the end of the round, once everyone has flicked their discs, or so many discs, depending on the mode you're playing. There is also another mode which does not utilize that disc, potentially just aiming for the middle. There is also a mode like this where you have to break the ice in terms of getting to the puck in the first place. Obviously, you are still flicking from behind the line and you're trying to get into that puck in the middle. It's really nice that this isn't just a visual piece, but before we get into too many of my thoughts, let's jump up to the review. So Pathways is kind of two separate things. You've got this the bamboo board here, and these are prototype components, so I don't know exactly how they're going to be in final production, but the bamboo board, which is the one-on-one sort of flicking game, and then you've got the Playmat, which when you've got more coloured discs, you would be able to do well, easily up to 4 players all flicking from different sides into the middle. Let's tackle those sort of separately, although as you can see here slightly and in the sort of the footage that you'll see, you can very much use the bamboo board on top of the Playmat. That's going to just stop it sort of moving around or shifting around too much when you're just flicking away. Although we didn't really have any problems with that just happening on its own when it was just on the table either. There's something very satisfying about having these chunky, plastically acrylic discs and trying to guess the weight and flick it across. There's something very sort of easy. You can teach this game in a matter of seconds. Flick from behind your line and try and get it in the opponent's back line. Now, there are other game modes and sort of differences, but it is that quick. Someone can sit down and start playing. Yes, there's 1 or 2 rules about you can't block your own back row that you need to go over when it happens. But for the majority, you can sit down and play from the get-go. Yes, someone that's played a number of times is going to have a bit of an advantage because you know quite the strength to flick to get across the board. But I've also seen some amazing, fluky, fun shots that someone's managed to pull off in their first game. And, you know, it's one of those dexterity games that creates that cheer and that groan when you just manage to miss, when it just teeters on the edge of one of the gaps, or when it finally goes in and you cheer. Now, there's multiple modes, as I sort of alluded to, and there's some that I think are better suited for brand new players. So on the prototype version, on one side of the board, there's some stickers. So the back row is indicated as 2 points, and then the row just in front of it is denoted as a 1-point zone, rather than just having that single back zone to aim for. That really did help for those first few games for when it's a new player, because just aiming for that back row felt really hard, and there was definitely a number of 0-0 draws as we were slowly honing in our flicks to get the right sort of power, the right directions and stuff like that. There's been some incredible moments, and actually one of my favourites was when I was playing with someone and they were playing, they'd flicked some, we'd got some in the middle, and they just went, oh, it's creating a path. Hence the name Pathways. And that is one of the incredible parts about this. The board is designed with lots of holes, which means you think, oh, my first flick will never go in, but you can sort of angle it across and sort of just teeter about falling into all of the holes, and it just falls in one at the end. And then there's other times when you can slowly build that pathway across, and by the end of the game, you've got somewhere to aim from right at the start that's got sort of a filled in route for you. It also means if your opponent scores, there's something in your back row. That's actually quite helpful for you to be able to aim over. So there's almost like a natural catch-up mechanism where if you're close and it fills a gap in, that's going to help you for the next one. And if your opponent fills in one of your your line here, well, that's making your next flick easier as well. And I really, really do like that. Yes, there's been some games where it's been like 4-1, but most of the time it's really close and it's right down to that last flick, especially as there's been times where someone's flicked it and got 2 in at once because, you know, they've managed to do some kind of like pinballing and knocking 2 in at once, which is great fun. And sometimes it feels like skill, and then as with dexterity, sometimes you just get that slice of luck. You flick it and it sort of jumps, it hits something in a way that you weren't intending, and it just
perfectly falls into place. It's been a lot of fun, and actually I'm a bit upset having to send this on to another creator so that they can get hands on, because, well, we've enjoyed playing this one so much. Though this isn't just the only thing though, there is the playmat. So moving that slightly out of the way, you have this very nice playmat. Again, all good quality. Now, we did use different discs on this. We weren't using the same ones from the bamboo board. Again, it worked really well. It's the right sort of slippiness, like with the bamboo board, that things just travel and you have to sort of hone in your strength. You don't want to just absolutely whack it because it will fly across the table, normally off the table and across the floor sort of thing. But then at times you want that power because there's a group in the middle of these, your opponent's pieces, and you want to absolutely smash them out the way. The fact that you can go from on either of them anywhere along your line means you can get different angles from your different shots, and that's really cool. Now, out of the two, I think I have preferred the bamboo board, the Pathways board, over the playmat, just because I love the way that this has been designed. However, I think, again, it's a prototype. We only had a couple of different colours of those discs, with more coloured discs, and which will enable you to play the different modes on this playmat with up to four players. I could see this maybe being then easier to get to the table, because you could play this with 3 or 4, whereas you would not be able to play that on the sort of standard Pathways board. Where do I see these being played? I see them being played, in parts of a game night. When it comes to this though, I could see this almost being played in sort of a pub atmosphere. It does feel like a pub game. It feels like those shuffleboard style games, flicking it across and trying to aim for a certain area. It has that sort of real feel of, chatting among friends and just having a go. And I think maybe if you had 3 or 4 different coloured discs, so you could have a different player on 2 players on each side, but different teams or not teams, that could work. It's an interesting thing that you can play, you can keep score, or you can just do individual games. Who's got the most in that one? Reset, go again completely, or you can keep track. And I feel like it feels like one of those pub games where there's just a couple of you and you're just going to have some fun flicking away while you're, chatting about other things, chatting about how your day went. It's a real nice relaxer, whether you play for 1 or 2 games of just flicking, resetting, going again, or if you go for like the 20-30 minute who can get to 11. Now, one thing I would say, and again, it's all default, all prototype components, is that I would have liked this scorer maybe to go above 11, just because 11 is in the rulebook as the target you want to go for, but you might want to be able to go to more, and because it then goes back round to 0, that is something maybe that could be improved. Not that this doesn't do a good job, it's a very simple sliding dial, which is perfect for just keeping the score. It's just, maybe to take their game to that next level. But yeah, I've really enjoyed this. I'm sad that it's going to be leaving my house shortly because it's come to work with me to play in a lunchtime. It's been sat on the table just so when we get in from work, we can have a bit of a flick, and that was indeed a score finally. Yeah, I've really enjoyed Pathways, and yeah, if it's anything like the prototype here that I've managed to get my hands on with, I could very, very much recommend it. Until next time, well, check out other news, reviews and such on the Don't Be Bored YouTube channel, and I'm Oliver East, signing out.